What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You're listening to episode 231. I am here tonight with Ryan and Tyler. Ryan, you don't have any puke on you, right? You're okay?
No, I almost threw up while driving. That was fun.
That's what my wife was saying to me, is that she's really glad that our kids don't throw up because she cannot handle the smell of stomach acid, or she will throw up. I have no issue with it normally.
Thank God for my sunroof, because I opened it immediately.
All the windows down.
But out of nowhere, Charlotte just bleh.
Yeah, for everyone out of the loop, Ryan has small child exploded vomit all over the place. Terrible situation. And sorry for anyone who doesn't like to think about that, who is listening, because now you're probably also on the edge of throwing up, and we apologize. But Tyler, how are you? Besides about to go get drunk.
I'm doing great. About to go get drunk because tomorrow is kind of a throwaway day for me and the start of a very, very, very long weekend. So I'm definitely very excited for that. But more than that, excited to talk about what we're about to talk about. I'm doing well.
Tyler, I really hope no one that you work with listens to the podcast to where you just said tomorrow's a throwaway day.
Yeah, nobody listens. We're good.
I'm gonna I remember we're on LinkedIn now, Tyler, and I'm putting the episodes out on LinkedIn, so we're out there.
You can cut that out then.
I'm not going to. So we had a big couple days in Detroit, and we're getting this in on the day of draft wrap up. Today is the 29th of June. Me and Ryan were out at the draft party yesterday. Thank you for everyone who said hi, who came out. It was fun. We had to move it inside because the whole world is burning down. It was a little echoey. I wish they would have done a little bit more prospect breakdown like they do every year. That was kind of disappointing, where they normally have people like Darren or Ken Cal and Art Regner and Daniela out there like breaking down the prospects that we pick and giving their stats and what they excel at. And they like cut all that out for another section of the Dan Rafferty band, which no one wanted to hear. So that was
they pretty much had ESPN as the filler in between. Like when Rafferty wasn't playing and they didn't have like stuff on the crowd, it was ESPN's broadcast, which wasn't awful. I mean, it was the Sportsnet guys, so you can't really be too upset about that coverage. But at the same time, it did lose some oomph by not having Daniela and the gang out there kind of talking through everything.
Yeah, but shout out to the one girl who was throwing shirts who had just an absolute monster of an arm.
She had a cannon.
She was launching them into the mez.
And everything. Just launching them bitches. Like she was on the ice level, getting them up to like throwing up toward the top of the lower bowl.
Into the second. No, she was almost getting them into the second deck there. Into the mezzanine. Almost.
Dude,
and I mean, it's shocking. Like wicked arm. You could have put her center ice and she probably could have hit. You could have pointed out a seat and she probably could have hit it. It was insane.
A Joe Milton rocket arm.
That's Milton rocket arm. So what we're going to do tonight is, like I said, there's a ton of stuff to cover. So we're going to go through the picks. I've got detailed notes on like 6 or 7 of them. And then we're just going to go through stats on the rest, because once you get further in the draft, there's little to no information on the player other than what you glean through the people talking about them on TV when they get picked. So I've got some pretty extensive notes on the top of the draft. We're going to go over, I can't even call it a fleece. Ken Holland gave us players for absolutely nothing. So we're going to go over that, and then we're going to go over the Eiserman presser notes. Those are the 3 things that are on the docket for tonight, and I want to start with the picks, though. Now, everyone can yell at me all they want. They already have on Twitter. As soon as I was live tweeting, and they're like, this pick is awful. But the more I look at it, the more I really like it. It was the same with Marco Kasper. So round 1, pick 9, Yzerman walks up. He actually said thank you. He congratulated the Golden Knights. He congratulated David Poile on his career. Normally, Yzerman just walks up, says the player's name, and like mic drops and walks off. He didn't do that this time. Nate Danielson, center out of the Brandon Wheat Kings. Round 1, pick 9, 6'2", 187 pounds. So he fits the mold of a larger center. In 2022-23, had 68 games played, 33 goals, 45 assists for 78 points. My notes on Nate Danielson, a big playmaking two-way center with exceptional skating and speed. So for his size, he moves very, very well. He is the first, and I figured this out, Ryan, the first top 10 right shot center drafted by Detroit since Steve Eiserman. So first top 10 since Steve Eiserman, with an honorable mention to Mike Sillinger, who was drafted number 11 in 1989. Mike Sillinger was a right shot. He has, based on what I have gathered from information I've read about him, from looks I got at him in video review, he has top to middle six upside. Really all he needs to work on is consistency and using his size to his advantage in like going to the corner and winning puck battles. Other than that, the dude's polished. He looks really good. Eiserman goes for like the high IQ guys. He played in for Team Canada in the World Juniors. He wore the C for the Wheat King, so you know he's got that leadership quality. And it seems like Nate Danielson, if you're going to stack the middle and you draft a guy like that, and down the middle in 3 years or however long is Larkin, Casper, Danielson, and whoever you want as your 4C, make that Veleno or Rasmussen or whatever you want to do, you're set on center. Mm-hmm. Because I think any of these guys, and I think the bigger thing is any of these guys, if there's an injury to someone like Larkin or someone toward the top, these guys can flex up because of their skill set, because of how polished they are. Like Danielson's build right now, he may be able to put on 6'2". He should probably get over 200 pounds, but I mean, he's
NHL ready. He's an NHL body right now, though.
He's an NHL body right now, but I mean, maybe he plays in Toledo next season. Maybe he goes back to Brandon to the juniors. Maybe he plays in Grand Rapids, depending on how ready he is. But he is one of the more polished players that I've seen come out of this draft. And I'm not mad that they picked him at 9, because I think he was mocked between 15 and the mid 20s.
I love the idea of a big-bodied right-handed center, and you hit the nail on the head with how he can, like, his shot is beautiful. He's got a great, especially when it's in tight, and he can put it pretty much wherever he wants to. From like when you watch through the videos, got one just playing in the background now just to see some of the things that he can do out there. His vision's fantastic. He can skate through guys pretty much with ease. I get it. It's juniors and kind of take it with a grain of salt to an extent, because how's that going to translate out? But he's not afraid to try things in terms of like skating through a guy's feet, getting the puck, or deacon throw him that in that sense. And then he's not afraid to shoot. What's Detroit need? Guys that shoot. We didn't get any fun trades or crazy trades that happened. But I mean, I think we all were surprised by him being picked. I'm not like, when you read about him and you watch him, you understand why. He fits a lot of what we kind of talk about with Eiserman, looking for a big body player that knows how to use his body. I mean, sometimes when you watch him kind of going around, he doesn't have the speed, but the way he kind of bodies himself through people, I'm not saying this is how he is, but he kind of reminds me of McKinnon a little bit, also with the same number. And to me, that's impressive. I know on Elite Prospects, they gave him a comparable of Filipino, which not going bad there either. So there's, and then your highlight, which I think I was muted when you mentioned it, he wears the C. I knew you would love that one. So that again speaks to a lot of what Detroit has seemingly been going for the last several years, but it's a minor detail, but it's one that's still important enough as it is.
I think a lot of that talks to getting players that play for each other, that know the importance of a team, that know how to work with a team and work with each other to improve each other's game. Like David Perron basically says, you're all basically cheerleaders for each other. You're all in there working together as a unit to support each teammate individually as well. And that's what the leadership qualities do. So guys that wear the letter, they wear the letter because they have those attributes. And when you get a lot of them in the room that have done that before, they all understand the teamwork, the culture, the relying upon each other that goes into it. And they've all got each other's backs in that kind of situation. So I think that's part of what Eiserman's trying to do, is just build up that kind of network of guys with leadership skill. Because if you've got all former captains and alternate captains on a team, you know that the reliability factor is there.
Yeah, I mean, initially I was stunned, kind of like the Moritz Seider pick. I was kind of a little stunned. It was very similar feeling. I'm like, who? And then I looked and I'm like, okay, well, they didn't reach too much on that. So, Elite Prospects had him at 26. Some Some had him between 13. So I mean, they didn't reach too much, I don't think. If he's your guy, I've always kind of had that mentality of if he's your guy and that's really who you want, you take him, whether you're at 6 or you're at 9 or you're at 18 or wherever you're at. If you want that guy and he's available and you don't think he's going to be there past where you pick again, then you take that player because, and that's one thing I do admire about Steve Yzerman. There's a lot of things obviously that we do, but that's certainly one thing. He takes the guys that he wants to take. He beats to the tune of his own drum kind of thing. And I respect that.
Draper said the same thing. Draper said you make a list and you follow your list and you take the next guy on your list if he's available. There's not a forward list and a defenseman list. There's a single one. And it just happened to land. A lot of people are mad because we took a lot of defensemen. But that's the way their list shook out. They were not going to pass on what they considered best player available because it didn't work positionally. So
the one thing that I question is you already have a lot of defensemen in the system. How many more do you need?
Yeah, I mean, they went for a lot of right shot defensemen this time around, though.
Yeah, Sandin Pellikka is obviously, we'll talk about that, but that one I was stunned. I was so happy about. I mean, a right shot defenseman with the upside of an Erik Karlsson or maybe a Chris Letang kind of. But going back to Nate Danielson, just real quick to reel it in. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Michael Rasmussen a little bit. I don't know, maybe a better skating Michael Rasmussen. Looks like he goes to the hard areas, maybe a little bit better hands, so maybe not the perfect comparison.
Yeah, but I was going to kind of go the opposite way of you there. He's he's a 9th pick center. Most people are going to think of Big Mike, but the difference is that Mike I don't know why I keep calling him Mike. Michael Rasmussen keeps sitting. He likes to Mike. Even at going into the draft, Raz was known for being that net front guy, doing everything right then and there. That hasn't changed a whole lot. Yes, we know how he's grown since that point, but that's what his bread and butter was. Danielson, the dude can move. That's, I think, the big differentiator in terms of what they're getting from him. And I think that's going to be huge. Now, the work on from one of the scouting reports I was looking at was his consistency and how he handles puck battles. So using that size to his advantage. But we've already seen that what Detroit can bring in terms of growing that aspect with Rasmussen, for instance, that is if we can get him through those pieces, I think we'll be just fine.
It's the one thing that I wonder about, and it's obviously something that time will just tell. But we always talked about when the Wings are actually ready to win, who's going to be the number one center? Is it going to be Dylan Larkin? Is it going to be someone that they bring in like an Austin Matthews? Or, I'm just bringing that name up.
That's a hell of a name to just drop.
Is it someone like that, or is it one of these guys? Is it Casper? Is it Nate Danielson? Is it someone like that? That's the question that we all don't know, because nobody that Eiserman's drafted so far, other than maybe Moritz Seider, has turned into a quote unquote star yet. Obviously, there's still time and there's still a lot to be said about that. And we obviously have to be patient with it, but we just haven't seen that yet. So, I mean, especially at the center position. So this is a wait and see. I really think that Danielson could be a good player. Like I said, initially I was stunned, but the more I look into it, the more I like the pick.
Yeah, that goes back to the whole building center depth, because if you look at Casper, you look at Danielson, you look at Larkin, you're getting really good depth there with just solid all around pieces. Because if you look at it, Casper's a two-way center, Larkin's a two-way center, Danielson's a two-way center. That's what you're getting, defensive as well as offense.
Does either Casper or Danielson project as the number one center, though?
I don't think so. I think Casper...
And that's the disappointing part, I think.
Projections, though, grain of salt, right? I mean, did Kirill Kaprizov as a 5th-round pick project to be what he is? I don't think so.
That's true. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, it all kind of depends on the development, and you have diamonds in the rough, but it seems like we haven't gotten lucky with that just yet. And maybe that's coming, but it's just a matter of time, hopefully.
So we're going to move on to pick number 17 in round 1, and this is where I don't get mad, because if you took Danielson at 9, I think Axel Sandin Pellikka at 17 is a steal because he totally could have gone at 9. I think he has the possibility to be one of the best, if not the best defenseman in the entire draft. So my notes on him, a sub 6 foot. So he's 5'11". He's like an inch away. Right shot defenseman. So something we are absolutely missing. Who is all offense without sacrificing defense. He averaged 8 minutes a game in the SHL. So that's real low time. The SHL loves to play vets over rookies. But he had a 0.23 point per game average, which landed him only behind Victor Hedman and Rasmus Dahlin for the SHL draft year production by a defenseman. So those are really good names to be in the company of if you want to talk about offensive production for defensemen. In juniors, though, he averaged 1.16 points per game, which was the highest production by a D-man this season. He's an agile, deceptive skater, great speed, great edge work, high accurate shot from all over the offensive zone. He's not just like a pick a spot and shoot kind of guy. He can score from everywhere, which is fantastic. He's very strong on his feet. He needs to work a bit on his strength and play under pressure. But like I said, he could be the best defenseman of the draft if his development continues the way it has, because he absolutely shone out at the World Juniors and he was fantastic. So I'm very excited. He also had to drive 15 hours to the draft on just getting like a driver's license recently because I think his flight got delayed or something. Someone's flight got canceled or delayed and he had to drive to the draft, which is insane to me. But very exciting pick. I am, like I said, if we would have picked him at 9, I probably would have still been okay with it. But that's the kind of guy you want to get, is someone like that who on the right side where we have a point of weakness right underneath Mo. I think he's going to slot in perfectly with a guy who is maybe more defense, like an Edvinsson, Sandin Pellikka grouping. Fantastic.
Kind of gives you shades of a Lidstrom Rafalski, if you will. It's a bit of a stretch, but you got big, towering lefty stud defenseman with a small, shifty right-hand shot defenseman. Maybe.
Almost like Eiserman knows what he's doing, right?
I just like it because I think I tweeted out, like, this is a Rafalski 2.0. And he ranged anywhere from, on elite prospects, going from 7 to, what was the low that they had him at? 15? 16.
Yeah, so 16. Getting him at 17, phenomenal.
And really depending on who you talk to, some had him as the top defenseman in the draft. Knowing that, granted, yes, he is an offensive defenseman. I mean, you could argue that it's like looking at a future Erik Karlsson. I'm not saying that's how he will be, but like that's the mindset you got to use for it in terms of what he can do offensively. And to be a righty, huge. I like what Elite Prospects Draft Guide mentioned, how he's evasive, but also a transition ace, meaning coming out of his own zone, he's going to light it up. And hey, what does that sound like with who we drafted the last several years? Guys that have been able to just come out of our zone extremely well. Seider, Edvinsson, Johansson, Wallander. Now you're adding Pellikka. I mean, come on.
I think that's what Tony said the same thing. I think Tony liked Sandin Pellikka more than Reinbacher. And Reinbacher went high. What did Reinbacher go, 5th? Like that was
no. 5th?
It was 5th.
It was 5th. Montreal, because Carey Price.
Yeah.
Yeah, rest his soul.
Yeah, because
that was a blunder of all blunders. That was like the Philadelphia Flyers are proud to select from Gatineau. Oops, I forgot.
Carey Price's brain 404'd mid sentence where you can see he's like David. And then everyone in the crowd named David's like, is it me? Who am I the one that is being picked? But that was, and then they're like, oh, we planned that. We're like, no, you didn't. Shut up. But I think Tony said the same thing, is that he thinks that Sandin Pellikka could be the best defenseman of this draft, just based on the trajectory that he has progressed in having this amazing season in juniors, where, like I said, I mean, right behind big names. And it's just, I mean, I can't find a downside to it, because the things that they say that are his weaknesses, like strength and play under pressure, those can be easily fixed. I mean, those are system things. Like, you can teach that. It's very teachable. It's not like bad skating, a little hard to teach. IQ, impossible to teach. Both those things are in the bag for him. Doesn't matter. Like I said, if you took Danielson, if you could just say without numbers, our two first round picks were Sandin Pellikka and Danielson. Great, you had a great first round.
Yeah, I said it earlier, and I know this you could argue was like the same type of setup almost with the Lions, where the picks that they made, most people would have thought they would have been flipped. And right now, you just can't be upset. I think a little bit, I was a little bummed that we didn't go for after like an Oliver Moore, but we got a position of need.
I think it's a slam dunk of a pick, especially if he turns in to be, a top 3 defenseman on your team. Even if he's in the top 4, I mean, that's a huge win. Building it from the defense out is kind of where it looks like Eiserman's trying to do it. And I mean, Craig Button had him as number 5. So, I mean, he could have went in the top 5 in some cases.
Dude, I think Craig Button does shrooms before he does his mock draft because some of his picks are absolutely insane.
Some of them are insane and some of them are spot on, but Dower had him at 9, recruit scouting had him at 8. So he was top 10 in a lot of cases. So, I mean, to get him at 17 is a huge win. And then also, we talked about the offensive upside. We talk about having to score a lot more goals, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But to be able to score goals from the back end is huge too. So you just look at the Vegas Golden Knights; they did it all playoffs long. So that would be huge to have a player like the comparables are Chris Letang or what was the other one? Is it
Ryan's comparable is Brian Rafalski?
Yeah, Brian Rafalski, Chris Letang, that kind of defenseman. I know some people say Carlson,
but
anytime someone is a good offensive defenseman that doesn't play a lot of defense, you get the Erik Karlsson comparison. So
yeah, and that's where, like Greg, you mentioned throwing him with an Edmondson. Edmondson's aggressive. He's got a great offensive upside to him, but he also is a smooth shutdown guy, or is going to be built into that. And we've already seen flashes of it in his short time in Detroit. So that type of duo, if that's going to be your long-term outlook, love it.
Yeah, and I just to kill this subject, I wonder how much Yzerman knows about the plans of other GMs. And not so much like specific draft plans, but just like, are they going to take forward? Are they going to take defense? Because maybe he was able to say, I'm looking at these teams between 1 and 15 or 1 and 16 and know that only one of them is going to take a defenseman. So maybe my forward that I want in Nate Danielson, maybe he's not going to be available at 17 because another team's going to take him. But knowing that only Montreal is going to take defense, my defenseman will be there at 17. I would be interested to see how much other GMs know about other teams' draft plans.
Probably not much, I wouldn't think. I mean,
I mean by just looking at their team and prospect pool makeup.
I mean, that they're watching and or listening to like the pundits and they're doing their research, or these people on their team are doing their research on what it is teams are needing or trying to stock up on the cabinet with. So you got to think that they've got someone specific that looks at the team, or his scouts probably have that input for him.
You also look at like the draft history too. Like you can look, okay, this GM tends to fill needs where this GM tends to take best player available. I know in a lot of cases, after like the second or third round, you start to take best player available no matter what the positional need is. But, some defensemen or some general managers will say, you know what, we need a defenseman. I don't care where we're picking in the top 15, we're taking a defenseman, even if he doesn't deserve to be there. And some general managers will say, you know what, we're taking the best player available because that's what we need to do. And I'm sure that either the scouts or Eiserman himself went back and looked at some of the history. It's like, okay, well, this general manager seems to take best player available. This general manager seems to take as needed. They need a defenseman, or they don't need a defenseman. They have a lot in the cupboard already. So Sandin Pellikka is going to fall to Detroit at 17. That kind of thing.
It's like playing weird strategy games. I bet you Eiserman is really good at like Risk. Bet you he plays a lot of board games. But round 2, pick 41, and this one I really like too. Goalie goes off the board in Trey Augustine, who played for the US NTDP. 6'1", 190 pounds. In 2022-23 in the US NTDP juniors, he had 14 games played with a 2.34 goals against and a 9.28 save percentage. And for the US national under 18, 33 games played with a 2.13 goals against and a 9.26 save percentage. He was called impossible to beat in regulation this year by Chris Peters from Flow Hockey. He could be the best goalie in this draft. He gives us another real option after Kosa. He's constantly on. That was another comment made about him. He is always prepared, never takes a minute off. He broke some US NTDP records this season. He'll be headed to Michigan State next season. I believe he was 44-2-2 was his record this season. And I mean, dude is super happy to be here. If you go back and listen to the Red Wings interview with him, he's a technical goalie, great overall skill, excellent puck tracking. I can't say enough good things about him. The only downside someone said is, well, he's only 6'1", because you look at these other goalies that are going and they're like 6'5", a 6'7" goalie went. Like, that's insane to me. But Trey Augustine, I think, has the opportunity to be the best goalie coming out of this draft and gives us an absolute solid backup choice behind Kosa. So the more you can stock your cupboard with very, very high-end goalies, especially when you had 3 picks in a row so you could just use one on a goalie. I mean, that's, I think, again, another slam dunk pick right here.
Yeah, especially because he's going to be he'll be right in the backyard at Michigan State. And you can't go wrong there. I mean, he already was in the backyard at the development team, but you're going to appreciate this. Elite prospects give Augustine shades of Carter Hart.
He's also from South Lyon, Michigan.
Oh, I was about to say that. But you know what? This is when I had this on at work, just in the background, and just seeing, you know, the Wings taking someone from South Lyon, Michigan, it gave me shades of what I thought that the Wings were going to do going forward, taking a lot of Michigan guys. Because did you see the Minnesota Wild? They took like 5 guys from the state of Minnesota.
Well, they're copying us now. So I wonder how much goes into, like, if there's any kind of psychology behind playing closer to home, or playing and then your days off you can be with your family, improves not just a player's performance, but just like making them more at ease on ice and letting them know, well, when you're done, you have like, you can go home to your family and stuff like this. So I wonder if there's any bit of psychology to that maybe that's something that they're leaning on.
It's possible. I mean, also, you know, the Wings seem to like the Michigan guys if they can get their hands on them. Obviously, they haven't been able to, you know, in some cases, but it seems like the Michigan guys seem to like to play for the Wings, and, you know, likewise with the Bruins and Boston and stuff like that. So,
well, just to add to Trey, he said he grew up watching games at Joe Louis Arena. So that's, I mean, a big plus there. He also calls himself an athletic butterfly goalie.
I like it.
I'll take that.
I know. I saw some people talking shit about the pick online, like, "Oh, we have Kosa." You can never have enough fucking goaltending depth.
Goalies are voodoo, man. Development can go. Remember Philip Larson, guys? Does anyone remember Philip Larson?
Yes.
And all the amazing accolades from playing at where he played Denver. All the amazing accolades that he had, and then he fell off the face of the planet because goalies are voodoo. Their development path is insane. Most of them don't make it to the league until they're 25 or older. It's just the smallest little thing could go wrong in their development path, and then they're done. So
I think it's changed a little bit with the Carter Harts and the Devin Levis and those guys.
Well, sure, but those are special players. Like, it's
you got 2 out of how many goalies?
Yeah, I mean,
Spencer Knight's another one though.
Yeah. Hopefully he can figure it out, though.
Yeah, right?
Like, he's going through some shit, too.
Yeah, I think that's
now you've got guys like Askarov, and now apparently he's available with Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville's trying to trade him out.
And he's been doing pretty well for them.
I don't think they ever thought that you know, that Saros would be as good as he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, you've got a position where there's only 2 of them on your team. You've got so many forwards, you've got so many defensemen. There's 2 goalies on an NHL team, 2 to 3, depending on how many you're going to carry. But you need to make sure that they're ready when you put them in the NHL. And that's why the development takes so long. And I mean, we've got, like you said, we've got Kosa. People keep forgetting that we have Carter Geilander. I think Carter Geilander still has the opportunity to be a really good goalie. He was very good in college. I think that he could make the move to the ECHL or maybe even Grand Rapids, depending on what they want to do. But like you said, you can never have too many high quality goalie prospects. And I would say that based on, and maybe not just the season that Trey Augustine had, but I think you could put him up there with a Kosa. With the way he plays, I think he's more calm and more poised than Kosa is. Kosa can be a little erratic sometimes. But if you go in and you can develop two goalies and put them into your team, like two goalies that you drafted and you developed, and they're that high quality, and you don't have to spend assets or money to get a really, really, really good starting goaltender, that's a huge win.
Mm-hmm. No, and you need it, because you look at these other teams like New York, for instance, they had several good young goalies, and in a way it worked out great, because now you got Shesterkin in net, and he's absolutely killing it. They had to make the necessary change, because if you've got these young guys that are competing with each other, they're going to force your hand, whether it's going to be a contract or you're getting traded out for a hell of a draft capital or whatever else you try to pull out of it. So they need the competition, and Detroit just in general across all levels needs goalies. So you can't be upset with what they made on the pick here. You can be, but you're probably miserable. So,
but don't be. Stop it. Be happy.
Yeah.
I've got notes on a couple more people that we're going to go through, and I'll just stats on the rest of them. Andrew Gibson, I have very few notes on. Solid defender, has some playmaking ability, is solid in transition. He needs to work on his timing to make his offense work. This is a little slow. Huge difference between NHL speed and junior speed. But he needs to be able to time his stuff to make his offense work. If he can improve his skating and his breakout, his transition's already pretty good, but if he can improve the skating and breakout, he could become a bottom pair shutdown guy. That's basically the thing on Andrew Gibson. That's the entire read. He was picked number 42 in the draft. He is, let me pull my notes back up. He is 6'3", 203 pounds, so he's big. In 45 games played, had 7 goals, 14 assists for 21 points. Like I said, projected bottom pair shutdown D. That's what he is.
Yeah, you need.
And this is where I lose Ryan and Tyler.
Pretty much. But I mean, you need your big body defenseman, and Detroit's hurting in terms of just guys that are going to go out and fucking hit you. Because he reminds you could probably compare him to that Cleveland that they picked up as well.
Yeah, he's the one I have my notes on Brady Cleveland are great.
Yeah, like you could probably make a comparison between the two. Of they're just going to go out there, they're going to shut you down, and then get the puck going back the other way, and that's that. So you can't be mad. And isn't Gibson a righty? Yes, he is. Would you look at that? They've completely restocked their cupboards of right shot defensemen, which have pretty much all seemingly gone away.
Remember the days when the only right shot defenseman on the team was Brian Rafalski, and he was on the first D pair?
Well, because he had to be, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the rest of the D at that time, and you weren't really upset that was the only right shot defenseman.
No, it was what? Lidstrom,
Kronwall, Stewart, Rafalski, Lidstrom. Who's the other pairing?
Lilia Lebda.
Might have been.
Good times.
So the next one, round 2, pick 47, Brady Cleveland. My notes on Brady Cleveland. Brady big, Brady go boom. Committed to University of Wisconsin. Go watch some highlights of this guy. He's 6'5", 209 currently. That's as an 18-year-old. 6'5", 209 pounds. 74 games played. No goals. 9 assists for 9 points. Dude's a monster. He basically called himself a bottom pair defenseman, which is accurate. He's there to destroy people. Think 6'5", 210 pound Radko Gudas, whose only job is to take out everything he sees wearing skates. I mean, it's fantastic. You had 3 in a row. Like, we traded back to get this pick with Nashville, and we picked up a really, really late pick. But if he makes the NHL ever, and he's just sent in to destroy people. I'm not sure I have a huge issue with it because it doesn't seem like he gives up. Like, that's what he does. Like, he's very defensively, not very, but he's defensively sound because whoever has the puck no longer has the puck when he looks at them. So I think that's just basically what he'd be there to do, is go in and destroy people. So I'm not mad about it.
This is Soderblom on defense.
It's Soderblom if he used his size to his advantage. Then we're going to go, Ryan has nothing. Ryan just nods and says yes. Round 3, pick 73. So the last one I have decently extensive notes on it because we've talked about him previously. The Red Wings draft Noah Dower Nilsson. Great story. He gets drafted where his brother goes. And I mean, he's just super happy dude. 6 foot, 185 pounds, 47 games played, 34 goals, 38 assists, 72 points. Great playmaking ability as well as offensive skill. Pretty raw talent. You can go back and listen to our talk with Tony. He's got a lot of offense. Tony has seen it as being a product of being in the right place at the right time. It's just offense happens to him. And just he makes these insane, he's probably the most insane plays in the league this season. And they worked, which for some reason, like, he's like, I'm going to pass it through 15 people and right onto the tape and it's going to work. Or I'm going to wrap it in from around the net to a guy at the dot and he's going to shoot it in. Just insane plays. Offense just happens for him. Not sure if that's an asset or not, because that's not something that I think is translatable between leagues, really. He was really good at international play this season and has been pretty dominant for Phelan junior team. He's one that I think we really have to keep tabs on his development because his tools are raw. But if it's something where he moves to North America and you see the same thing happening, it's something that could be really exciting. And I think he was projected higher than 73. So at 73, I mean, it's a good pick.
Waiting on Tyler. He's just staring just like I'm staring.
I mean, I like I said, I like the pick. I mean, to bring in him, and
you didn't say that though.
His brothers already in the system. I mean, that's huge. Like I said, I mean, obviously once it gets to like the third round and stuff like that, you're starting to throw darts at the board and hoping they stick. But I mean, if he can become an impact player or even someone that makes the roster, you'll be happy with that.
I know we talked about it and brought him up with Tony, so it's actually pretty neat to see that he was brought in. Might be a little bit more upside there, but we'll have to just wait and see. I mean, it was great that his brother and his family were there to all experience it together. Like the Wings posted a fantastic video of the brothers exchanging a huge hug. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we got the prospect tournament coming up. Or not the prospect tournament, development camp, excuse me.
That's this weekend?
This weekend starts the 1st through the 5th. So that'll be enjoyable. Hopefully they'll have some stuff posted online. I probably won't be able to get down to LCA, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the story there was basically they lost their mom to cancer when they were 14 and 12 respectively. It took a huge hit on him. He's been doing things though, like a lot of emotional support stuff. He's been going to get help for it, which is again something you want to see with your prospects. They're working on themselves to get themselves in the right mindset. He also had an injury which kind of derailed his season this season. He took off on an insane start. It was like 30 points in 22 games or something. And like I say, he got injured, derailed it a little bit, got back on track. If the offense can translate, you've got a great bottom six, just like goal scorer, which is fantastic. Just makes offense happen. But it's a little bit of, he's got a lot of work to do to get to that point. Round 4, pick 117, Larry Keenan, left defenseman, 6'3", 185, 49 games played, 11 goals, 26 assists for 37 points. What I have about him, his grandfather is also named Larry Keenan, who had a very long NHL career in the 60s and 70s. Played for several teams. I don't know very much about Larry Keenan. Jack Phelan, round 4, pick 137. He's a right defenseman, 6'2", 185. 59 games played, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. He's an overager. Again, another defenseman. I think Jack Phelan is 20, so he's like 2 years removed from the draft, which is, again, sometimes it happens. They're late bloomers. They improve decently like Buchelnikov did, and then they get drafted. So this is another one that I like. Kevin Bicker's a forward, round 5, pick 147 out of Adler Mannheim. Who else do we know from Adler Mannheim? Mo Seider came from Adler Mannheim. Kevin Bicker, 6'1", 176 in 21 games played, 10 goals, 11 assists for 21 points. The broadcast said that he will punch you in the face. He's an aggressive forward.
I'm starting to notice a pattern here.
Yeah, he's an aggressive forward on a bad team, but impressed on his own. He had a really good World Junior tournament. They got Mo, a German friend. They say if anyone's going to be quote unquote a sleeper style pick, it could be him because, again, you're scouting out of the DEL where the competition is not great. But if you can scout an individual based on what you see in their game against the competition, you could hit. So this is one that they say could be a hit because just his style of play and his individual play really kind of jumped out. Plus, he's got the grit in the sandpaper that the team kind of needs. So that's Kevin Bicker. I found literally 2 pictures of him online, one of which I used for our graphic. Pick 169, nice, round 6. Rudy Guimond is how I'm going to say it. He's a goalie, 6'4", 100. Yeah, sure. 6'4", 179 pounds. He played 28 games for Taft with a .940 save percentage and played 33 games for the Yale junior team with a .939 save percentage. Again, depth goalie piece, see what happens there. And then the final pick of the draft for the Red Wings, 201 in round 7, was Emmitt Finnie, who is a 6', 170-pound forward from the Kamloops Blazers. In 64 games played, had 9 goals, 26 assists for 35 points. They say he's another one that maybe could be a sleeper. He was buried on a really good Kamloops team. Next season, he should get an increased role there, and we'll see how he develops with an increased role. But that was the Red Wings draft in a nutshell. Like I said, notes on the top people because they're easy to find notes and video on. Not a lot on the bottom picks. Overall, and if I had to grade it, and I'm going to make you guys grade it too because I have to do it. Based on my research today on the people that we picked, the Wings for me are getting a B+ based on the first 2 rounds alone, because Pat, that's really all you can grade on. Not that they just drafted for need, but they picked up who I think can be the best defenseman in the draft. They picked up a middle to top 6 center to go along with Larkin and Kasper. They picked up possibly the best goaltender in the draft to go with Kosa. I think if you base it on that alone, I've got to give it a B+.
I'll go a solid B. I mean, I don't really want to go one way or the other. I'll do some little more reading and research once I finally get the time to do so. But going off the logic you provided, to me, it's foolproof. Like, they went after need. I know Eiserman says best available, but both things are what this team and their depth they needed. So whether that's going to be maybe one of these guys make it to Grand Rapids this year, if they do, that's fantastic. I'm not going to hold my breath. But they went after things that hopefully over the next 3 to 4 years will make them better. So I like it. There's certain ones, we talked about Oliver Moore, how he dropped. That's a guy that I thought we would have gotten at either 8, 9, or 17, but it is what it is. We've had that same thought about Eiserman the last couple of years in a way, and he shut us all up very quickly. So to be upset about this, that's on you at this point. You can go ahead and take it, but the first round, you look at Eiserman's history, he hasn't really missed.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's obviously the jury's still to be out, but on the surface, it looks like a B+, somewhere around there. I'm not going to say specifically, but somewhere around in that neighborhood. You can't really be mad about this. They went and they identified what they needed. It turned out to be the best player available and need at the same time in a lot of these cases. And obviously, once you get past the 3rd round, it's kind of like throwing shit against the wall and hoping it sticks. So,
and with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the Ken Holland giving away free shit, and we're going to talk about the Eiserman press. We're going to wrap it up. But we'll be right back after a message from DraftKings. New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. Bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-HOPENY or text HOPENY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, in West Virginia, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. 1 boost per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. 10 plus legal required for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. And we're back. And there was a I said it too sad, right, Ryan?
You did.
Is what you're gonna tell me?
Like, man, that was
oh God, depressing. We're back. No, okay. And we're back. Is that better? It's like a better like intro. All right.
Yeah, that was better.
Give it to you.
Thank you. And Ken Holland gave us people. And like it's great when you look.
Did he lose his phone and Eiserman just like walked over and be like, I'm sending you this deal. And Eiserman's like, oh my God, look what he's doing.
So Ken Holland's in a little bit of a bind because Edmonton has no money and they've got people to sign. Like they want to keep Evan Bouchard. Like that would be great for them. They really want to do that. So they had to drop some cap. And what they did basically was we took, for future considerations, the most traded player in NHL history, Klim Kostin, former St. Louis Blue, right? Former St. Louis Blue, arbitration eligible.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
And we got Kailer Yamamoto, who has like a $3.2 million contract. So that is what we basically were paid. We basically took Kailer Yamamoto's contract to get Klim Kostin for free, I think is what happened there.
The real Klim Shady.
Yeah,
great.
Apparently he loves, or they called him Klim Shady. And now that makes me want, I was talking to Pete about this earlier. The Wings need individual goal songs back now, just so Slim Shady plays if Klim Kostin's out there.
So the initial report was that Klim Kostin was going to go back to the KHL. That's what was going to happen this season. And then when he heard he was traded, or his agent heard he was traded, they're like, we're going to do, I don't remember. We're going to do contract talks with Steve Eiserman. That's basically what's going to happen. Eiserman was also asked in his presser, his draft floor presser, about Klim Kostin. He's like, we think he can work up the lineup. So what happened, and I put out a tweet about it earlier, Klim Kostin got very limited ice time in Edmonton. He was stuck behind. I mean, it's a deep team, so he was stuck in the bottom. The Oilers had no room for him. His finishing numbers and goal per 60s are really good. So based on JFresh's WAR projections, 59% WAR, but his finishing's at an 80%. His goals per 60 is at an 80%. I pulled his card up on Evolving Hockey. Overall 42 with an offensive 43, a defensive 37, but he's got positive 5-on-5 offensive numbers, like positive GAR, positive XGAR. And his penalty numbers are, he draws far more penalties than he takes. So I think there's opportunity there for someone like Klim Kostin, and taking Kailer Yamamoto is not a bad thing. Like Kailer Yamamoto, again, his Evolving Hockey cards at overall 57 with an offensive 54 and a defensive 54. He has positive even strength GAR and XGAR. He takes more he draws more penalties than he takes. Good power play numbers, good PK numbers. He's a pretty solid forward. I mean, he's 24 years old. People
don't like him that much because he's undersized.
So is Alex DeBrincat.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
That's my response to like people saying that. Like, who gives a shit?
So he's got a 59% WAR on the JFresh cards with a 57 offense and a 53 defense. His competition's at an 88%. I mean, again, you're burying people behind two of the top players in the NHL. And when you're giving them limited minutes and you're expecting them to blow up and just be great, it's not going to happen. Now, Kailer Yamamoto on the Red Wings is probably, again, going to be a bottom 6 player. But
my third line.
He can play wing or center. And if you make him your 4th line center, like, Plus his nickname is Yams. I'm totally taking that, man.
There's a new t-shirt. Get a yam.
We need the yams and real Klim Shady. I'm going to make that a t-shirt.
There you go. You're welcome.
So, I mean, it's to get them for free. And if they don't work out, they don't work out. Whatever. But does Kailer Yamamoto fill... The other thing I looked is, does Kailer Yamamoto fill the Pius Suter hole?
I wouldn't say that. He's not a center.
He is a hybrid, right wing and center.
Yeah. He plays PK minutes.
Suter's more the center that you would,
Pius Suter played a lot of wing this last season.
That's true. I guess you can compare the two. You're right.
So I think that if you're just looking for a Suter fill-in and you got Yamamoto for free, and he's got 1 year left on his deal at like 3.2 mil. I mean, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to take Klim Kostin. I'm going to give him mid 6 minutes and see what he can do.
It might be a stretch if we're hoping that Yamamoto is going to be playing center, though. He had 6 wins, 7 losses all of last season.
Yeah, he's not a center.
So maybe not. We can pump the brakes maybe on the replacement for Suter at center on the PK. But he can play the PK.
I mean, again, I'm going to take free players when people give me free players. I'm going to figure out what to do with them later. That's what I'm going to do.
So I agree with that, especially when it's coming from Ken Holland.
And if Klim Kostin has to decide between playing for the Red Wings or going and joining the war, I think he's going to play for the Red Wings. And that's what's going to happen, because I don't think he's going to the KHL. And I think Eiserman can outbid the KHL team that would want him anyways. But that's that. I mean, there's not really much more to it. You could plug both guys into the lineup tomorrow, and I think each of them add to the team based on what you're.
The team got better today than it did.
Great, yeah. Klim Kostin replaces Adam Ernie. That's basically your Adam Ernie replacement is Klim Kostin, and he's better immediately. Fantastic. So the last thing I want to cover tonight, and we're going to do it pretty quickly here. Eiserman did a 10-minute draft floor media availability where Helene St. James continued to piss him off. It was fantastic. Like every time she asks a question, he gives her like a death glare, waits like 5 seconds before answering her question to kind of let it process in his brain, and then just gives the most deadpan, boring answer you could ever give. And it's hilarious. So, quick notes. Yzerman says Kostin is a big, hard-playing winger. He can find room higher in the lineup. He thinks he can get more opportunity there. He skates well, played on a deep team. He thinks he can take on a bigger role in Detroit. Fantastic. He's trying to figure out what the plan for him and Yamamoto is. Doesn't know yet.
Do you think Yamamoto gets bought out?
No. He's 24. Why would you buy him out?
I mean, it's just a random thought. I was reading, was it Duff or Hockey Now had a mention of, they only have until tomorrow, right, to make that choice.
Yeah.
So I was just
waive him and send him to Grand Rapids.
Huh?
Waive him and send him to Grand Rapids.
Right.
I don't think there's any issue there.
No, he's not getting waived. He's an NHL. There's no way he goes to the AHL.
Okay. Waive him and then someone picks him up, and then he's someone else's problem, right?
I mean, you got him for free, so there's nothing
you got
to
him
lose.
for free.
See if you can trade him. Who the hell knows?
So I don't think there's an issue there. They'll do something, but I think Yamamoto, in his capacity, I think there's still more to unlock there. I mean, he, again, buried behind really good players. He needs to get a goalie signed. He's also looking for a right defenseman. So those are two things that he's looking for. There are spots open that they will try to address in free agency. He would also like to address scoring if possible. Trades are still possible. That was another big highlight there. He's like, yes, I'm talking to people about trades. I've been talking about people trades for 3 days. Stop asking me about that. He wants to spend time with the guys at Dev Camp, set them up for a good offseason. On qualifying free agents, they will make the final decisions tomorrow because they have to. He was asked specifically about, who was it? Ned. He was asked specifically about Ned. He would not give any answers. He basically said he doesn't want to give anything away. Same thing about UFAs. Nothing's been ruled out, but he didn't want to elaborate. Eiserman, Steel Trap, wants you to shut your mouth and stop asking questions, but he's going to take them anyways because he has to. He says the free agency is still thin, so teams are looking to be more active in trades this offseason because the free agency sucks. Currently,
also, no one has any money.
Yeah, and everyone's poor.
Oh, I'm poor.
Currently, we have more needs than there are players available. That was another interesting point. Eiserman says we need everything, and those things aren't all available. He says the plan was not just, on the draft, says the plan was not just big defensemen. Someone's like, you draft a lot of big defensemen. He's like, yeah, I know. That wasn't the plan. They liked them at prospects, and they still picked their best player available based on their list. On Liam, Dower, and Nilsson, Hakan Anderson and Kronwall, they know the family very well. He was asked if, you picked his brother, so did you pick him just because you know his brother? He's like, no, Hakan's over there, Kroner's over there. They watch him play. They know the family. They know him as a person. That helped in picking Liam, Dower, Nilsson. On Augustine, they saw a lot of him. Yzerman was very complimentary. He's a very competitive goalie, looks good in net, moves well, has good positioning. These are all words that came out of Steve Yzerman's mouth. It's like the most I've ever heard him talk about a player. So that was kind of exciting because he really, really likes the goalie that was picked. On the position of the team, in the offseason, Eiserman says they're positioned reasonably well to make trades or sign free agents, but won't make moves just to make moves. He's like, I've got the cap. I've got the assets.
Did you hear that? There's another quote coming up that I want you to listen to. Continue, Greg.
I've got the stuff to make moves, but I'm not just going to do it. My note, and this is just a personal one for me, Eiserman was talking while Bad Guy by Billie Eilish was playing in the background. So I feel like that is now Eiserman's theme song because it's hilarious.
I just want that song. I don't know what that means.
You don't know the song Bad Guy by Billie Eilish? I
don't know the song.
Maybe
either.
If I heard it, I would know.
Oh my God. Okay,
not something
guys.
I would go out of my way for to listen to.
Okay. Well, it was on and I thought it was funny because it's Eiserman and Bad Guy was playing. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
On priorities, Eiserman would like to add offense, but there are no guarantees that he can do anything because that's the nature of free agency. Players pick where they want to go, and he's not going to overpay for people. And you are lucky to get one or two of your free agent wishes. They were super lucky to get what they got last season. And that was basically what he signed off with. He's like, you can want all the free agents you want, but those free agents also have to want to play for you. So that is the other half of it. And you have to want to give them the money. They're going to go to whoever's going to pay them more, give them the highest term. They're not going to come to us because we're the Red Wings like that.
Hear that, Tyler?
Holds some
Andrew
weight.
Kopp's the only one last year because of the whole Michigan ties.
Andrew Kopp's deal is fine. He was paid market rate.
That's what I'm saying. Like probably a team-friendly deal.
Decent players and shit like that.
So that was basically Eiserman's presser. A lot of good stuff in there, basically on the draft, on Kostin and Yamamoto's future with the team, what he plans to do in free agency, which we basically already knew was go out and try to sign guys, but that the free agency sucks and that he's still trying to make trades. So
I know that song. I went and listened to it real quick. That's
there you go. See, yeah. So it's Eiserman's theme song now is "Bad Guy" by Billie Eilish. Yep.
This one behind me was mortified that I didn't know the song, Ryan.
Yeah, I am too. I'm mortified because it was a very popular song.
I at least know it. I just didn't know that was what it was.
Jesus, guys. So anything on Eiserman's presser? Did you pick anything out specifically? I know you want to dunk on Tyler about something, Ryan.
Yeah, Tyler, you wanna revisit our text messages from earlier today?
Yeah, I do.
So why don't you restate for the jury what was that you said?
I didn't care for what Eiserman said prior to the draft.
It wasn't prior to. It was right at that night.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. After he drafted.
Here's the quote that's in question for those that are curious.
Okay.
Steve Yzerman, this is Brad Galley on Twitter. Steve Yzerman addresses the state of the Red Wings. Quote, "We're still in a rebuilding phase. We're still collecting assets through the draft. We're still there. We're not at a point where we feel like we can go for it. We're progressing. I hope to be there sooner than later." End quote.
You mean makes total sense? Like exactly what what's happening in year 5 of the rebuild?
Let's go, Tyler. Go
right,
ahead.
but I hate the fact that he said we're still in a rebuild. Why?
Because
to me, a rebuild is the beginning of it, and we're not at the beginning of it. And the other thing is everyone talks.
Process.
Hold on. Everyone talks about the whole we can't trade any assets away for Alex DeBrincat. Yeah, you can. Why can't you? You can do both. You can be quote unquote rebuilding, and at the same time, you can still be acquiring assets and be pushing yourself towards contention, but you're not, quote unquote, towards contention just yet.
Steve Eiserman never said that he wouldn't do something like that.
It makes it sound like that when he says we're still in a rebuild.
You just said
assets.
People are saying, and then put that into Steve Eiserman's mouth. That's not what's being said. He said he's made it the point very clear several times over that he will go after players when he thinks that this team is ready to go after the said players. Maybe that's not right now, which it's hard to disagree with him on that.
So then why did you sign Andrew Kopp last year?
Because you needed a center.
And you need a goal scorer right now.
Okay. Sure, and free agency starts in 2 days.
And who are you going to get in free agency that can put the puck in the back of the net?
Trades still happen throughout that whole thing.
Whole 3 months to go.
That's the biggest need to me. Defense also, but definitely goal scoring.
Well, yeah.
Just wait until Pierre Dorian sweats himself out of his cheap suit and then has to trade Alex DeBrincat for peanuts and the entire Sens fan base implodes.
Go get Tarasenko for cheap. There you go. There's your goal scorer.
Sure.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
The only thing that worries me about Tarasenko is his injury history.
Oh, I know.
You're not giving him a 5-year deal. Maybe Tarasenko a 2-year deal, 3-year deal.
You could go get a Ryan O'Reilly.
Okay.
There's options out there, but they're not high end.
Listen, Ryan, none of that really rustles my jimmies, man. I'm not going to go ahead and just go out and grab some guy to grab some guy. Just like, that's a great quote and a great soundbite for anyone that's pulling stuff. But and Eiserman said the same thing. I'm not going to sign a guy just to sign a guy. I'm not going to make a trade just to make a trade. It's got to make sense, because his other quote was, when you go out and trade for a guy, you got to be prepared to do two things. You got to be prepared to spend a lot of assets and then spend a lot of money in term to be able to sign that guy. And that's the big thing, is you've got to basically give up twice to get a young player away from another team. And that's why I said,
you better start drafting superstars.
The team can't. That's the thing. You get shafted in the lottery over and over and over again. And you're picking.
Can hope that Danielson's a Jason Robertson type player.
Great. Yeah. The hope is worthless. Basically. That's what it is.
You don't know.
Hope holds no value.
So them not winning the lottery fucking sucked.
Yep.
My thing is in a rebuild or wherever we're at this point, when you're still in transition, I guess it's probably a better way to put it. You need to take risks once in a while to push yourself forward, not to push yourself over the top and do what Boston did or do what Toronto did or Edmonton did and trade crazy assets for one player that's a rental or anything like that.
Don't be dumb.
It would be dumb. I'm not saying that you would do that. I'm saying that if you were to acquire DeBrincat, you're signing an extension.
Yeah,
that's not even just Nylander, not even just DeBrincat, Nylander too.
So trade the Boston first, a second-round pick, Jonathan Berggren, and Albert Johansson for William Nylander.
I'd do it.
Great. Now you're working with picks next season, which right now don't really matter very much until the draft comes around. You can do something like that. You can go out and maybe still see if Clayton Keller's dad is mad. That's another thing you can go do. So there's options, and we have the entire summer for something like this to happen. Yep. Free agency, more stuff will happen.
Well,
there are teams that are still.
It won't be the entire summer because you've got arbitration coming up, and I don't think Ottawa wants to go to arbitration with Mr. DeBrincat.
Walk DeBrincat to free agency. We'll take him for free. That's fine. My thing is that there's still teams that are cap crunched. There's still teams that need to make moves in the next few days. So you'll probably see trades tomorrow. You'll probably see trades on July 1st.
Done at the draft.
This is like, I think they said the first time in 60 years that a trade has not been made on day one of the draft. Like, it was an insane number.
The NFL and NBA have it right.
These general managers in the NHL are a bunch of, I don't even know what the word is to say, but they're so afraid to trade picks. They're so afraid to trade prospects. And I guess the biggest reason is at this point, no one has any money. No one has any cap. And the teams that don't want to take on cap. So it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't kind of thing. And they're in a tough position with the cap not going up much.
Well, the cap goes up after this season. So $1 million this season. After the season, it goes up probably 4 or 5. No, it will. It absolutely will, because escrow will be paid off. But we can still take advantage of teams, because there are still a lot of teams that are over cap, or that are going to be over cap, that have to make moves, that have to bring people in, that have to sign their free agents to extensions. And we are still about $6 million under the cap floor, 5 point something. So I guess that's where we're going to leave it tonight, because Tyler has to go get drunk, right? Yeah, because people are waiting for you.
That's correct.
Great. All right. Final thoughts. Ryan, we're going to start with you. We're going to make Tyler wait.
Final thoughts. Another good draft. I'm gonna go with good, because we don't know how things are going to play out. We've got a whole summer to let these guys get acclimated, see what happens. The next couple of days are going to be fun with the development camp, and then we'll see most, if not all, later this fall, hopefully, when it comes to prospect tournament and prospect camp and everything else. So training camp, if you will. But no, I'm happy with what they did. They addressed need. They went size. They went skill. I think that's the biggest thing out of it in terms of their top picks. Other than Sandin Pellikka, that's where the skill part comes in, not necessarily size. But outside of that, like it's not make or break yet. This is another summer where there has to be improvements made. If we have improvement, we're in a good spot. We're already seeing a huge roster turnover again, which is what you should be expecting with Eiserman at this point, because the roster is his. He shed so much already. We've got Abdelkader getting paid for 3 more years on dead cap, but it's the start of a new era is arguably now here, because you got Casper, you got Edvinsson, Johansson, Seider, Raymond. All of these young guys are likely now going to be making an impact on the roster. So hopefully most of them, there's certain ones we know will be there, but others will be on this roster come fall. So the skill's there. It's just a matter of time. Now that patience part comes in on our part. So we'll see what happens. Already ran 33.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. Patience is certainly something that with prospects is something that's going to be important going forward. I'm kind of excited for free agency. You would think there'd be more trades, at least on that day. Going into the weekend. I told one of my friends today, I'm like, I think this weekend has a potential to be really, really active in the NHL, just because there's so many teams up against the cap, so many teams trying to get under it, and just stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with that. But go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say Saturday gets interesting, because now we can start seeing extensions get brought in as well. So, like, to your point of trades, like Saturday, Sunday, yeah, it's a holiday weekend. But there could be a lot of things going on in terms of moving pieces, especially.
But Ryan, are you ready? Are you ready for an idea you're going to hate?
No one's going to do anything until after the holiday?
No, that Tyler Bertuzzi could go to the Chicago Blackhawks.
God damn it.
You had to say that, Greg.
I was having a good 24. Night. Rowan says his amusement has been tempered as I note the evil no good Darkbirds have $24 million in cap space.
The evil no good Darkbirds. I like that. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens with this weekend. I don't anticipate too much happening in free agency for the Wings. Maybe we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. Good draft. Pushing forward, and hopefully we get one of those trades or a free agency signing that we like. Otherwise, everyone have a good summer. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
Yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm happy with the draft. There are a lot of people that are disappointed. I'm happy. I need to be happy, right, Ryan? We need to be happy and positive for the season.
Are happy, Greg.
So they will be streaming the development camp. There are some scrimmages that they're streaming. Go check out the schedule. I think they posted it online. You can go take a look at it. It's over the next few days is going to be a development camp. I don't believe it's open to the public this season. It was previously. I don't think it is again. You can follow me online at Bring the Wing. Follow Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. Sub to us on YouTube. If you're listening not on YouTube, go drop us a sub, and you can stay updated there for our content. We'll give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network. Yeah, that's who they are. The Hockey Podcast Network. Yeah, the hockey. I don't know what to do with my hands. The Hockey Podcast Network for hosting us and spreading us around. Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. Go get that Nate Danielson jersey. Get that ordered up before Fanatics takes over and ruins absolutely everything. If you use the promo code GRINDLINE on Howie's Hockey Tape, you get 10% off. Use that same promo code on Bring Hockey Back. You get 12% off. And you can check out our merch on redbubble.com by going to redbubble.com and searching the Grind Line. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.